crafty peeps, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Today I am sharing my first layout with the super lush legendary collection with you. Okay, first of all, can we just have a moment of silence for how amazing the legendary collection is? If you've watched me scrapbook before, you know anything about me, you know that florals will always have my heart. I am a sucker for pinks and teals and beautiful floral arrangements, and the legendary collection was like, oh, you thought so, Tatiana, but what you really like are stars, and you like green, and you like blue, and you like yellows, and you like orange, and this collection just, oh, this collection just got me right in the feels, and I am obsessed with it. So for this first layout, I decided, instead of playing with like a cut file or something, I decided to like really play with paper and kind of let the paper shine and see what I could do with a minimal amount of tools. I know that not everyone has the same access to like scrapbooking tools and devices that we all have. Like I have a Cameo, I have a cutting machine, but not everyone has one. So I wanted to challenge myself to see what I could do with a minimum amount of supplies, like no crazy tools. What could I do with a bunch of paper and my paper trimmer? And so I had this idea to cut a bunch of triangles and to make a circular shape using those triangles, and then to kind of layer pattern paper over it. I've seen cut files in the past that kind of mimic this kind of like pie chart effect, but again, I wanted to see what I could just do with paper. So I cut a bunch of 3x4 rectangles out of that green paper, and then I went ahead and cut those rectangles in half to get right triangles, and then I'm arranging them, and you see I kind of get like kind of a pinwheel, kind of a circle on my background, and I'm alternating like the way I'm positioning the triangles because I don't want them to look perfectly even. Like I kind of want them to be a little wonky and a little like off-centered, and I'm doing this towards the bottom right of my photo. That's where I'm anchoring my circle. And the photo I'm scrapping today, I showed you guys in the beginning, I'm trimming it down now, is of my two favorite guys. It's a photo of my yummy nephew Noah and my husband. My husband is definitely my second favorite guy now. He has been replaced by the super yummy baby. But I liked how that worked out so much. So now I go in and I just cut up a bunch of rectangles from other paper. So what I did was I tried to pick out patterns that felt like solids. So like this blue pattern is texture, there's an orange, there's a yellow, but they kind of felt like solids. And you're not going to have to watch me cut all these papers out because that would be horribly boring, and I don't blame you for like clicking out of this video. So through the magic of editing, you don't have to watch me do this. But what I did want to show you is that I'm cutting my rectangles progressively smaller. So my first rectangle was 3x4, and then my second rectangle was 2 3/4 by 3.5. And then it was 2.5 by 3. And so the rectangles just get progressively smaller so that my triangles eventually get progressively smaller when I cut the rectangles in half, so that when the end result was to layer all these papers so you could still see the paper in the back, so you could still see the papers underneath it, and so nothing gets like covered up and lost. So again, I just cut triangles progressively smaller so that I could layer them out, and then I use my distressing tool from Tim Holtz. Unless you're new here, you might know that this is one of my favorite tools in my scrap room. This is like I'm a sucker for ripped and distressed edges. Like I like messy edges on my pages. I do this all the time. And so what I did was like I intentionally like crumpled the paper in my hand. Not so much that the paper becomes like wrinkled and unrecognizable, but I crumpled it so it gets that texture. And then I distressed all three edges of the triangles. And this took so long. It took so long that I eventually commandeered my husband into helping me. Like I just sat there and looked pitiful until he was just like, okay, what do you want me to do? And I was like, do you want to distress some of these edges for me? Because I had I think like 4 dozen triangles. By the time I was done cutting papers up, I had 4 dozen triangles to then distress and set up. So he helps me because he's a saint and he's the best. And now I'm just trying to figure out how I want to arrange my triangles. And so I go back and forth a lot with what I want to do. And you see, I left most of this footage in so you can just kind of see that when it comes to something like this, it is not an exact science. Like, this is all about what you think looks good. I talk a lot about what feels good on my scrapbooking pages. What feels good, what makes me happy. Like, not necessarily is this the right or wrong way, but does this look good? Does this make me happy? What feels good? And so I finally figure out how I want the triangles arranged. And so I just use my ATG to just glue the triangles down. And so I glue that first layer of green down, and you see some of the triangles are touching, some aren't. We're going for a very distressed and loose and messy pinwheel kind of circle shape. And then I just start gluing the blue triangles down. I'm trying to match the shape of the green triangles underneath, but also stagger them so you can still see that green paper. And so you see, this is what I meant by the triangles getting progressively smaller. As the triangles get smaller and I stack them, like the yellow triangles are going down, but you can still see those green papers underneath. It was really important to me that you could still see all the layers of the paper as I start creating this, like, I don't even know what I'm calling this shape, this pinwheel, this circle, whatever we're calling it. We are literally building papers and we are stacking. And when I first had the idea, I was like, well, maybe I'll do it in rainbow order. So I'll do yellow, then orange, then green, then blue. And then I was just like, Tashiana, throw that rainbow in the garbage. Do whatever you want. So I grabbed the green paper first, and that's the first paper I went with. And then I went with the blue, and then the yellow, and then the orange. And I kind of like the orange on top, actually. Orange is not a color that I reach for a lot in my personal memory keeping. So I thought it'd be fun to have that color be front and center. And honestly, once I put that black and white photo on it, it just, I love this effect so much. And so since the pattern paper that I'm using for a background has kind of that mixed media feel, also, you guys, all of you that are afraid of mixed media, grab papers like this because it gives you the effect of mixed media without you having to do any of the work, which I'm all about. So since my paper is distressed, I decide to kind of distress my my focal element. I don't even know what I'm calling this. So I grab some ink sprays. I use, the white is picket fence, and then I put down some abandoned coral. I use some of the Blew Me Down from Shimmers. I use some Dilutions, Calypso Teal, and some Ranger Cracked Pistachio. That's what the green color is. And I just go ahead and put some splatters down. And I am really loose and messy with these splatters. Like, I put them everywhere. I put them on my focal point, on my background. The point is just to add some more color and to mess this up a little bit, just so it all looks really distressed, especially since I said there's already that mixed media effect in the background. And then this is one of my favorite things to do. Once you put down ink sprays and you don't want to wait for it to dry, if you're impatient like me, you can just roll a paper towel over it. So you don't want to blot it up, because if you blot it up, you will ruin the shape of the splatters. But if you just roll of paper towel over the layout, it will just pick up the excess paint and the excess ink, but it won't distort your splatter, so you'll still end up with paint splatters. Sometimes if you try to blot it up, you'll like smush it and you'll ruin the shapes, but this doesn't do that. And so I decided to map my photo just once, because there was a bunch of paper in the background and I don't want to like pull away from it. And so I use a mostly white pattern paper, and then same thing, go in and distress the edges with that distresser tool. And now we get to the good stuff, which is embellishing. But honestly, with a background like this, I don't even know if we can say that embellishing is the good stuff, because this background, you guys, is wonderful. This is definitely, like, I don't know if I'm the only person who scrap lifts myself, but I am 100% scrap lifting myself and doing this again. Also, I had a full-on like gasp, squeal, stop everything, look at this moment when I took that star embellishment out the pack. Because when you look at things on the back of a die cut pack, you don't get to really see the scale and appreciate the scale of what's in the pack. So when I opened it, I was like, wow, this stuff's really cool. And then I saw those giant stars, and I was just like, yes, stars are my love language right now. Like, I said this in the beginning, I thought that I loved everything that was pink and florals, but honestly, just give me boy layouts with stars for the rest of my life, and I will be happy. I will be okay. So I saw those huge stars, and I decided that stars were going to be the focal element for my embellishments. So I just grabbed a bunch of stars. The good thing about this die cut pack is there are a lot of stars. The better thing about this collection is there is a sheet in the pattern paper that is just a bunch of stars. So if you run out of stars here, then you can just fussy cut some more stars and you'll have stars from here to eternity. Also, there are paper punches where you could just punch out stars. I have I think 3 different paper punches that are like progressively larger stars. So if you just see star layouts from me forever, that is why, because I am obsessed with this shape and obsessed with this color palette. So I'm just embellishing the way I always do, which is I've noticed that I do things in a C shape. So I do things around my photo and start putting things on top of it. So I added a star to the background. I added that large wood veneer frame. I add some stars to the foreground. I add that mountain piece with the Stay Wild piece. I always like to add words around my photo. So I grab that banner that says incredible and another banner that says memorable. And now I'm finding even more stars, because what could you do but add more stars? Like, why not, Tashi? Add more stars. And I decide to kind of create like a vertical element. So I put stars on top of my photo cluster and then underneath my photo cluster. And we're creating like a vertical line to drag your eye down. And I really like the effect that gives, especially when you have that big round element in the background. And also, I love that. Yes, I did clap for myself, you guys. You did see that. That was not a drill. You did not imagine that. I totally clapped for myself. But I love that Cocoa Vanilla includes these this pack of cardstock titles, because it's really hard for me to come up with titles for my layouts, and so I typically just pour them all out on my desk and grab the ones that, like, I would not have thought about calling this so rad until I saw the titles made for me. And then I grabbed my roll of scrapbook.com foam tape and I popped the whole thing up on foam, because you know what this layout needed? You're right. It needed more dimension. It did not have enough dimension. It totally needed more dimension. So I put the whole layout up on foam using some foam tape and some tiny foam squares. And one of the things I like to do while I'm scrapbooking is I like to attach everything to my photo cluster. So I have one big piece to move around, and I'm not moving a bunch of little pieces back and forth. So same thing. So I put the whole thing up on foam. I used a bunch of little foam squares. Now I'm popping my photo cluster right in the middle of the layout. And again, I love the dimension and the height you get from putting things up on foam. I decided to put my stars straight onto the page, to not pop those up, because I wanted my photo element to be the highest element on the page. So I decided not to pop the stars off. I just add them to the background. And then the next thing I do is add some foam behind my title. So I have so many foam squares in my stash, because I'm a sucker for dimension. Sue me. So I have so many foam squares in my stash. Oh, so before I do that, I add a cardstock sticker from the accessory sticker sheet that says Best Buddies. I just love Noah and Joshua together. Joshua does not come from a large family like I do. My grandmother has 16 grandkids. So I grew up with a million cousins. All of my cousins have babies. So there's a ton of, I grew up with a ton of kids in my family, and Joshua didn't have that. So I love watching him and Noah interact. It makes me so happy seeing the two of them together. And my sister, she like geeks out all the time. She's like, Noah, go say hi to your uncle. And Noah he's just the happiest baby ever. So I love having this picture of Joshua and Noah together. And I hope that they do stay best buddies. Like, that's really my hope, that they have a great relationship, the same kind of relationship I have with my aunts and my uncles growing up. So, and that's why I went with that sticker. And so I pop my title up on foam, and then I'm adding a few more stickers from the accessory sheet, because you know how I am about things in groups of 3. If I do it once, I have to do it 2 more times. So I just pull out my T-square to kind of help me put the 2 stickers on the bottom to kind of get them straight, and they're just a continuation of my title. I will tell you exactly what they say as soon as I find my layout. So 2 seconds. So they say superstar and just be yourself, and I kind of want them staggered a little bit, so I put one a little bit closer to the left and then one a little bit further right. And then I dig out my stash of clear stickers, because I recently discovered how much the clear stickers look like paint swatches and how fun that is in the background. And since my background is kind of intentionally messy, I grab some of the clear stickers that look like paint swatches, and I tuck it underneath the triangle. So I want them to look like there's like mixed media in the background, and they're kind of coming out from behind the triangles. And that, you guys, that calls the layout done. I scatter a few of the clear stars as well all over the page and finish it up. So I hope you enjoyed this layout. I hope you enjoyed this first page that I made with the Legendary Collection. It will, by no stretch of the imagination, be the last page I make with the Legendary Collection, because I am obsessed with this line. I've messaged Zoe like a million times and told her how much I love this line. She's probably sick of me. She's like, okay, Tashiana, we get it. Go make stuff. But I really do. I really love this line. This is the first boy line I've seen in like ever that I was like, I want to make all the things with. Unfortunately, Paper Issues in America did sell out of it, but my little scrapbook store is going to be stocking this line. So if you are US based and you want to get your hands on it, my little scrapbook store will have it in her shop. So as soon as Michelle tells me that she has it, I will post on Instagram like I did when Paper Issues stocked it. So that's all I have for you today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you are so inclined, and let me know what you think about this page. Till next time, keep it crafty and have the best day, and I will see you around. Bye!